Uspap, page 248. Appraisal Development, Appraisal Dates. If the client is asking for an appraisal with a different effective date, the appraiser needs to determine the appropriate scope of work to produce credible assignment results for this request. Such a request would need to be considered a new assignment, but that does not necessarily require starting from scratch. As with all new assignments, the appraiser must decide the appropriate scope of work to produce credible assignment results. This would include a decision as to whether or not it was necessary to perform another inspection, as well as the extent of any additional research and analysis that might be required. The scope of work for the new assignment can be different from the scope of work completed in the earlier assignment. As with any assignment, the appraiser might be able to use information and analysis developed for a previous assignment. Number 139, date of report. Question: I was recently asked by a client to change the date of an appraisal report that I had submitted. I have always used the date that I began writing the report as my report date. My client wants me to use the date the report was submitted. Is my client correct in asking me to change the date? Response: yes. The date of the report is the date that is completed and transmitted to the client. According to Uspap, a report is a communication transmitted to the client upon completion of the assignment. Given that language, the appraiser's document is not a report until it is transmitted to the client. In addition, if the certification is dated, that date should also be based on the date the report is completed and transmitted, not when it is begun. Logically, one cannot certify regarding what has been done before it has been done. Number 140, date of revised report. Question: in response to a client request, I recently made some minor edits to a report. The assignment results were unchanged, but I corrected a few minor typographical errors and entered the census tract number, which had been omitted from the original report. Because the results did not change, this was essentially the same report. So I did not change either the effective date or the date of the report. My client now wants me to resubmit the report with the current report and certification date. Should the new report be dated as of the date revised? Response: yes. The date of the revised report should be the date that it is completed and transmitted to the client. According to Uspap, a report is a communication transmitted to the client upon completion of an assignment. Since, in this case, a new report is being completed and transmitted, it should be dated accordingly. This is true even when the only changes are minor corrections and the assignment results are unchanged. In addition, if the certification is dated, that date should also be based on the date the report is resubmitted. In the resubmission, the appraiser is certifying the content of the revised report. So any certification date cannot precede the completion of the revisions. Number 141, revision to the contract price. Question: I recently completed an appraisal for mortgage financing purposes in a purchase transaction and delivered the report to my client. My opinion of value was less than the pending sale price. 1 week later, the buyer and seller renegotiated the contract, agreeing to a price equal to my appraised value. My client asked if I can provide a revised report wherein I replace the prior sale price with the newly agreed upon sale price. How can I do this and comply with the requirements of Uspap? Page 249. Response: the appraiser may not simply replace the pending sale price information in the appraisal report and resubmit the report to the client, as this would be misleading. Under Standards Rule 1-5A, the appraiser is required to analyze all agreements of sale, options, and listings of the subject property current as of the effective date of the appraisal. If the new contract information is stated in a revised report, the appraiser should note the second contract was provided after the effective date, and the information regarding the contract that was in place as of the effective date must remain in the report. Further, the revised report must have a new report date as of the date the revised report is transmitted to the client. If the client does require a more current effective date, the request must be treated as a new assignment. Additional related guidance may be found in Advisory Opinion 1, Sales History, and Advisory Opinion 3, Update of a prior appraisal. Number 142, Proposed Improvements, Current and Prospective Value Opinions. The real property that I am appraising involves proposed improvements, and the client needs to know my opinion of market value as if the proposed improvements were complete, both as of the current date and as of a future date. I have two questions. Question number 1. When the date of value is a current date, and my opinion is my opinion developed on the basis of a hypothetical condition or an extraordinary assumption? Response: when the date of value is a current date and the appraisal is of a property with proposed improvements, as if those improvements were complete on a current date of value. The value opinion is developed on the basis of a hypothetical condition. This is because the appraiser knows the proposed improvements do not, in fact, exist on that current date of value. Completing an analysis on the condition that something the appraiser knows to be contrary to what exists, but is supposed for purposes of reasonable analysis, is using a hypothetical condition. In that analysis, see Standards Rule 1-2G. Question number 2. When the date of value is a future date, when the proposed improvements will be complete, is my opinion developed on the basis of a hypothetical condition or an extraordinary assumption? Response: when the date of value is a future date and the appraisal is of a property with proposed improvements that are expected to be complete on or before that future date, the value opinion is developed on the basis of an extraordinary assumption. This is because the appraiser presumes the proposed improvements will in fact exist as of that future date of value. Completing the analysis on the condition that something the appraiser reasonably believes will exist as of a future date is using an extraordinary assumption in that analysis. See Standards Rule 1-2F.